Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/287, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net, or you can text me at 202-930-1109. Check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 287th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. As you can tell, my cold is starting to abate a little bit here, and the voice is coming back a little bit, which is great. I am hoping to get out on the trail over the course of the next few days, and so that's very exciting. You'll be hearing all about that on a future program. On this episode, though, we are going to do an old school tips and tricks episode. I feel like it's been 1,000 years since I've done one of these. This episode, we're going to cover gifts for someone on bike tour, and the genesis of all of this goes back to a few months ago. I was trolling around on Reddit, as I am wont to do, and on the Touringbicycles sub, a user by the name of brewmonday asked for ideas on what to get their brother for their birthday while they were on tour. So that got me thinking and participating as well. And I thought that would be a good episode for this particular show. So without further ado, let's jump in there. I'm going to start off with the ones that were suggested in this particular sub. And we'll start off with my idea, which I will sheepishly admit got the most upvotes, was a hotel night. I think that this is, if you are trying to give a gift to a bicycle tourist, and they're, especially if it's a longer one, especially if they're on a budget like this particular person was on, what a great thing to be able to get. Now, you've got to be careful, though, because if the entire point of this trip was, hey, I'm bike packing, I'm getting out in the wilderness, and I'm not going to be anywhere near a town, that's not going to be the right choice. But if this is a truly long distance ride, and the person is going to be going cross country down the coast, going for more than a week, I'll tell you what, a hotel night's a pretty decent thing. Very luxurious, especially if there was no plan to have one in the first place. Particularly if there's a place in their itinerary where it was a big question mark about camping. I think that this is a really great gift to get. I know that I always appreciate hotel nights. I've never been gifted one on a tour, but I know I would appreciate it because, obviously it's more expensive. And if you are doing it on a bit of a budget, you are not going to be tending to do a ton of hotel nights. So I think that that's probably my number one recommendation if you're looking for a gift for somebody. It would be get them a hotel night or an Airbnb or a fancier setup. I know that a lot of campgrounds will have cabins available. Those can actually be kind of fun, an upgrade for their accommodations, maybe to make this a little bit broader. So that was my idea. That went on the sub there. Another one that was brought up on the subreddit was pizza delivered to a campsite. I think this is a great one. It would actually be kind of a fun one to surprise them with if you have the right pizzeria and you have the right campsite and this obviously isn't going to work on the C&O where your campsite is often 2 to 3 miles away from the nearest parking spot. I don't think you're going to be able to get a pizzeria to deliver that anyways. But I think that there's a ton of opportunities for a lot of the different trails that I've ridden on. I'm thinking of the Ohio to Erie Trail, where there were campsites like literally on the edge of towns, established ones, real ones, not stealth ones. And I think that you could probably call the local pizzeria. And, assuming that they'll take your credit card over the phone or you can order it online, I'm sure you could probably pull this off. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't the first person to order a pizza at that pizzeria for that campground. So that's a really fun one. I like that. And again, if you can get the surprise element involved there and chat with the folks at the pizzeria, all the better. And of course, this goes true. Pizza is just one thing. Of course, any kind of food delivery is pretty awesome. And, what's interesting these days with like Uber Eats and all these other kinds of things, it's not just pizza delivery that's necessarily available. available. Now, most of these things tend to happen in cities, so I think when you're in smaller communities, it's going to be your pizza, your Chinese. I'm trying to think who else would deliver in a smaller community, but it's probably stuff like that. But anyways, getting some food delivered to the campsite, I think, is a fantastic idea. That was a pretty popular one as well. This one was interesting. I would never have thought about this one, mainly because I don't like massages, but getting someone a massage in one of the upcoming towns. That's a great idea for folks who do like massages. And especially, I don't know about the rest of you, but frequently when I am on a bike tour, if I'm not dialed in right with my, handlebar height and my seat height and all that other stuff, I'll get creaky in the neck. I'll have pain in the back, and stuff like that. And I know that that's a really common thing for a bike tour. So a massage strikes me as something that can help with that kind of a thing. I am weird. I've never liked massages. I don't like them. I don't care for them at all. And so this would not be a good idea for me or for someone who has a similar preference or lack of preference. But I know most people like massages, so I think that this is kind of a great idea. So a massage in one of the upcoming towns was another one of the choices from the Redditors there. The last of the ones that I'm going to mention on this particular subreddit was an e-reader, which I thought was really interesting. Now, this is pretty specific. The person that had suggested this said, hey, I'm constantly reading this thing, it sips on batteries and all that other kind of stuff. I think that this works really well if your gift recipient is a reader, if they don't have something like this, if you think they'd like it, if you didn't think that it would be too much for them to carry. They're very light. They're really easy to charge. They hold a charge forever, especially some of the e-ink ones that are available out there. So I think that's a really good one. Now, for me personally, I use my phone for everything. So bringing along an extra device, I don't think I would necessarily use, but hey, it would certainly be an interesting and welcome gift if somebody wanted to get me something like that. I'm not asking for one, by the way. I don't know if I would use it, but anyways, I think it's a great gift for the right person. That was it for the ones that were within the particular subreddit, which was kind of surprising. I was kind of hoping there would be like dozens and dozens of them. So I sort of brainstormed up some additional ones to add to the list here. And I'd be really interested if you all have any ideas to add to this list. We'll make sure that we circle back and add them in a future episode. One of the ideas that I had was a gift card for a grocery store that's upcoming. Now, a lot of times you're going to be going, I'm thinking of the Pacific Coast. California and Oregon Safeways are fairly ubiquitous. Not every town, but that's a chain supermarket that you're definitely going to hit at some point on your trip. You may go a few days between seeing one, but the likelihood of you seeing one is pretty high. So if you know that the person that you're giving to is going to be going through a town with a Safeway or with a Giant or Wegmans or, and enter name of a Martin's, enter name of your grocery store or a regional grocery store or national grocery store, and see if that is going to be plugging up along their route. If it is, you can get them a gift card, perhaps even an electronic one, which would probably be the best way to do it. But as we'll talk about in a moment, there are opportunities to be able to mail things ahead, which is kind of a trick, but we'll get to that in a moment here. Another thing about kind of doing things remotely, putting money into an account, I'm not a huge fan of dining at fast food establishments, but as you all know, I do, and I do it frequently, so I'm not going to diss on them. But, they're frequently a really great idea for getting some good Wi-Fi to be able to charge up, and, bang for the buck calories, it's hard to beat that. Is it the healthiest thing? No, but, occasionally it's kind of your best option in any given town. So most of these big national chains have, cards or accounts that you can populate with money. So you could create an account if you don't know if they already have one. You can let them know, hey, get their app, and then I've created an account for you. Here's the login, and by the way, you now have $30 on it, or $50, or $10, or whatever. That buy them a meal, get them a proper feast, give them a way to be able to fuel up and not have to double guess. Do I get the extra large or do I just get the medium? Then they don't have to think about that. I think that's a pretty good thing. And I do think that there's something to be said about doing that, less so for the food and more so for the ability to connect with Wi-Fi, which I think is just such an important thing in so many of our tours out there. So putting money in an account for their favorite fast food establishment. Next one on the list is, this one will take a little bit of doing, but I think it would be super appreciated. Schedule a tune-up for your loved one, your friend's bike at a local bike shop in a town that they've got a 0-day planned. I think that would be a really huge thing, because one of the things that's difficult when you're on tour is you're not really focused. I mean, you're triaging your bike, you're not really focused on, I've got to make an appointment or something like that. And these days, it's really hard to get your bike looked at same day, which can be really challenging when you're on tour. Example, you all remember last summer when I was on tour in the Oregon coast and I was having the problem with the chain, which I eventually figured out how to fix. But, the bike shop that was there wasn't available for me. And then the hours didn't really work out. And even then, I'm not even sure if they would have been able to see me in time, because so many bike shops are so backed up, particularly in more crowded cities and communities. So I think that if you're able to give a call in and see if you can get an appointment made, or at least give the heads up that, hey, a bike is going to be coming, and then prepay for it, that's a really, really great gift. Now, is that going to work out every single time, every single shop you call? Maybe not. But I think it's a great gift. And frankly, even if your friend or loved one's bike is going perfectly well, there's always a good opportunity for having a mechanic give it a look over to make sure that everything is working well. As you all know, sometimes some of us don't see everything that is wrong with our bikes, and sometimes that has consequences. Like many of my recent bike tours, as I think about it, between the chain in Oregon and the tire in California, I've been having issues with that. I just went over my bike, the Big Safari, which I have not ridden on a proper tour in what feels like forever, but I gave it a really good once over today before I started recording this, and you better believe that everything is looking tip top right now. Gave it a good once over on the tires, took a look at the brakes, everything's nice and clean. I even cleaned the chain and lubed it up. I know the king of bad chain maintenance maintained his chain. In any event, even if it's only been a few days on a bike, I think that this would be a nice gift for somebody, just a little bit of a once over. And you know what, if they end up getting there and their bike is actually fine, maybe they can use those credits for something else that would be helpful for them equipment wise on tour. So you might not even want to necessarily get a mechanic appointment. Maybe it's just you get a credits or a gift card or something for that LBS, the local bike shop. That's always going to be something really good for somebody on tour. And I got one more one here. If you've been in touch with your friend or loved one, inevitably you're going to have some kind of a sense, or hopefully you'd have some kind of a sense. Or if you don't, you could ask, are they missing any gear? I mean, is there something that's not right? Is it colder than what they expected? Is it wetter than what they expected? Has their tent sprung a leak? Is there are they not liking their pad that they're sleeping on? Any of a number of things where maybe they'll kind of go, I wish I had this. Well, this is the thing where we get into the ship ahead kind of stuff. So it is. Let's start with the easy stuff. Find something on whatever your favorite mode of buying things is. Buy it online and ship it to where they're going to be. You're going to need a few days worth of knowing where they're going to be. So you're going to need to know your friend or loved one's schedule. But if you know they're going to be in a hotel, you could ship to a hotel. If you know they're going to be at a campsite, maybe a commercial campsite would be that has an actual mailing address, you might be able to ship to there. But the other thing is that if you are dealing with a friend or a loved one who is actually doing something a little bit more remote, I would have you check out all the way back to episode number 085 for some of the things that I think that bike tourists should borrow from long trail hikers, through hikers. And that is the concept of the bounce box, but specifically here, shipping to general delivery at a post office in a town that you know that they're going to be at, because that's actually going to be probably one of the most flexible ways for you to be able to get them something. Now, as I mentioned in that episode, and I would definitely encourage you to go listen to that if you haven't already, it does go quite a bit back. Not every post office will do this, and also make sure that you're doing this at a post office that is actually convenient to them. Don't just pick a random post office at a major city. Smaller towns are actually a lot better for this kind of a thing. They tend to be the ones where they actually do this. Larger cities, larger towns, they tend not to do this, or they're more apt not to do this, general delivery as an option. So in any event, I think that this is probably the most complex way for you to do something. It's going to require a bullet hitting a bullet from a logistics perspective. But if they really need something to physically get to them that maybe they can't necessarily get, skip the step of giving them a gift card to Amazon or REI or whatever and ship it ahead to them. That's a huge surprise and a really welcome one, I would think, too. So in any event, those are my ideas for gifts for someone on bike tour, in the middle of a bike tour. Of course, if you've got a little bit more foresight, and if it's before someone's leaving, you've got a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more time to be able to do these things. Maybe helping them out with maps, or helping them out with an account, a more paid account on Ride with GPS for a few months. These are kind of stocking stuffers almost, as it were. So this doesn't have to be a super expensive kind of a type of a thing, but something that you can use to help out your friend or loved one with a gift as they go out on tour, whether it's for a birthday, whether it's for a holiday, or whether it's just because you kind of dig them and you want to give them a gift. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lane, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Abiles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zaranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Lazuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponseller, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, and new to the society, Sarus Faravar. And thanks also to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.